How many swizzle sticks do you have? How many swizzle sticks do you have? How many swizzle sticks do you have? Okay, everybody, this is Andrew once again. Welcome to the SuperHouse Podcast, and this week we have once again our senior Batman correspondent, Sir Ben Wan.
I feel like I'm your co-host at this point.
Yeah, but
I'm not the correspondent anymore.
Yeah, I know. You're upgrading. You're just fucking co-host at this point. Yes. Yeah. The only other person that's with me lately, other than the fucking guest. Yes, that's true. That's true. I'm sorry about that. The fucking co-host.
No. This was fine. Yeah.
Co-host and correspondent.
Yes.
I don't even know. Batman. What can we call it?
Senior Batman I don't know.
Senior Batman
co-host
Ben Wan with me, upgraded right here on the air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this week we thought we'd go in order, which is not Batman Forever.
Oh, after Batman Returns in 1993, Christmas, Warner Brothers almost at the last minute decided to change a Batman movie that was going direct to video and release it to theaters instead, and that was Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, the first animated Batman movie.
Which was really crazy at the time, especially because we both watched this show on TV.
Yep.
Like a lot of people our age did. And then you would see posters for this movie in the theater, and it was like, wow, this has never happened before.
Right, yeah.
Not from there wasn't like a Tiny Toons movie in the theater. You know, like this was kind of new for us at our age at that time. So
also kind of ironic that Batman Returns was released in the summer and yet was set in Christmas. And yet now this one was the Christmas Batman movie.
Right.
Timing-wise, they could have... But this was a box office bomb.
Yeah.
Because nobody really knew much about it. It didn't last too long in theaters. I was fortunate as a kid to be one of the few who actually caught a screening of this movie in the theater with my parents. I didn't remember much of the story going in. I remember being confused about how people could possibly confuse the Phantasm for Batman because they just look completely different to me. I didn't remember any of the flashback stuff. But I do remember specifically this Joker scared me way more than any of my VHS viewings of Jack Nicholson. Just the way that he killed people, the death of Valestro with a smile, and the way that he confronts Arthur Reeves in the office and everything like that. I was just so freaked out as a kid. I had to cover my eyes when I had to see Valestro's dead body. And I don't remember feeling that way when I was watching him on cartoon on Saturday morning. I was like, why is this so much scarier on the big screen than it is, you know, when I was able to watch it on TV? And it's because they amped up the violence and they amped up the scary factor and the adult stuff on it. And it wasn't until I rented it like years later, because people kept saying like, this is the best Batman movie. This is the best Batman animated movie. And I'm like, well, I saw it as a kid. I don't remember much other than just being scared. So let me check it out. And then when I saw it again, I was like, holy shit, everyone was like, this lives up to the hype. And ever since then, it's probably been my absolute favorite in both live action and animation, just from the story is so simple. It's a detective story. It's got a raw emotional through line at the core, though, that I don't think has ever been replaced or has ever been improved upon, in my opinion. So that's my memories of Mask of the Phantasm. Andrew has a very different story, though.
Oh man. So I have a confession to make to the audience, and I already did it to Ben, but I had never seen this movie until today.
I was like, what?
Ben was
all the times I brought this up on the podcast, I didn't realize I was spoiling shit.
I was trying to be a poser, I guess, but I didn't want to lie any longer. I couldn't let the lie go. So basically, I remember seeing the posters, but and loving the TV show, but I was part of the reason that the movie was a bomb.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like you were still young at the time. It's not like you had the means to just go to the movies whenever you wanted.
I could have asked my parents to take me, but I guess I
yeah.
just didn't do it. I don't know why. I don't know why it was, and I loved the show. But you know, Yeah, we're putting the Blu-ray. I have it on Blu-ray.
I'm like, you have it on Blu-ray.
And I've had it for like a year on Blu-ray, and I hadn't put it in. I don't know why it is. But anyway, he was like, "When's the last time you saw this movie?" And I was like, "Oh, I've never seen it before." Ben's eyes got as big as fucking watermelons.
In the meantime, like the soonest I've seen this movie was like earlier this week, probably.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, there's a big contrast. I'm like, well, you're in for a fucking treat.
But the twist had been spoiled for me from being online, and also look, just seeing fucking cosplay. Anytime you see a cosplay of Phantasm, it's always a woman. So basically, yes, internet just ruined that for me. But whatever, it's not like, you know, we're well past the fucking what do you call it, the limits on spoiling or whatever. But
this movie's nearly 30 years old.
Yeah, nearly. Oh God, don't remind me, man. 2023, 30.
Yeah, 2023. So we got a ways, but still, it's close.
Yeah. So, and also I did read, or I watched the Siskel and Ebert review of this movie, and that kind of like set the stage as to what this movie is about. So I kind of knew a bunch about this movie going in. So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So there's a lot of, like, everybody says this is, you know, this is the best one. This is the best one. I personally think it is. Now that you've seen it, how do you feel about it now that you finally got to watch this?
Oh man, we just watched it. We just finished watching it like 10 minutes ago or less. So I'm still kind of unpacking it, but I can see why people say it's the best one, because this movie is about Batman. Oh my God, a Batman movie about Batman.
Like 5 minutes in, I was like, Kevin Conroy's had more lines in the first 10 minutes than Michael Keaton ever did in the first 30 minutes of the Tim Burton movies.
Right.
And more character development already.
Right. And it's this whole idea of like, what does it take? What does the sacrifice take? And, you know, what, like they say near the end too, we've heard it a million times, but still, like, look into the abyss, make sure that the abyss doesn't change you, doesn't look back to you, I guess. But, you know, don't become your worst enemy. And that's what the Joker's always trying to do, right? You're going to be like me. I know I can break you. Things like that. So to see the difference between Batman not being broken and her being broken kind of earlier on.
Yeah.
You know, there's just a lot of that like character arc type shit in it that...
Impressive for like 1 hour and 16 minutes.
Impressive. It's a kid's movie. You call it a kid's movie, but it's way more mature than even the Burton films, really. Man, as far as like being best ever, though, I have to unpack it more. It's definitely up there, though. It's definitely up there.
There's so many emotional beats and so many iconic moments to this. You know, when he's at that gravesite in the flashback and he tells his parents, I'm like, I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't count on being happy. Like, it's heartbreaking.
You actually hearing lines from Bruce Wayne where he's just really struggling with who he is. What does it take to be you?
Right.
To do what you want to do with your life? What sacrifices are you going to make? I mean, that's what this is all about. What he does for Gotham, what he does what he has to do to make his vows true. You know, it's just like, I mean, not even Nolan really got really into that stuff a whole lot.
Right. Yeah. Not to this level or to such a memorable extent. That, you know, heartbreaking to watch the moments where he's like, it's just, you want them to get together, but you know it's not going to work.
Right.
You know that
Right.
how he turns out. You know that he's proposing to her and the bats come out. But you want him like to not be Batman in a way. You want him to actually give that up and be with her. Even as every time I watch this movie, I don't want her to turn out to be the Phantasm.
Right.
I wanted to just be like, okay, it is the. I mean, I secretly hope each time like the movie changes and it is the dad and they put him away and she goes off and lives happily ever after with him in Wayne Manor. But that's not how it turns out.
Right. Right.
And of course, there's that scene where he dons the costume for the first time, almost as if it's a. I described this to a friend recently. It's almost as if it's portrayed in such a way where it seems like a sane and rational response to his heartbreak. Where he's like,
Right.
I thought I could have this type of life. I can't have it anymore. So this is all I have left.
Right.
In a way. And it's the tragedy of Batman in a scene that really doesn't have any dialogue other than Alfred's reaction to it.
Right.
But it's so like, again, this is one of those things where it has not been matched. In fact, with all these Disney live action remakes going around, it's almost like it'd be too precious for us to try to do a live action remake, but I'd be curious to see how that would turn out.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
And I've
with
talked
the right people though.
I've talked with you for some reason, even though I had never seen the movie, I knew that this was like a thinking man's Batman.
Right.
And I feel like Reeves, for some reason, I don't know why I get this vibe, but I feel like it's going to be very not close, maybe close in tone and close to being more Batman centric and detective centric,
right,
than the other ones that we've seen.
So, sort of jumping into some things, so like a lot of things that we've said, so many people have already talked about, you know, in terms of like, oh, this is the best one, such emotional core, love story, things like that.
Oh, by the way, before we jump into the scripts, is what we're doing right now.
Well, I was some trivia stuff and the scripts, but yeah,
that sounds good. I wanted to ask. So this is the first time they invented Phantasm for this movie.
They did. It's said to be inspired by a storyline called Year 2.
Okay.
And in Year 2, it's a story where a man named Judson Caspian comes back to Gotham City, and he was the previous guardian of Gotham.
Okay.
And he was a vigilante named the Reaper. And so he has a skull mask, the long cloak, these scythes on his hands and everything.
Badass.
And everything. And the difference is that he's the guardian of Gotham who kills. And he sort of questions whether or not Batman is up to the task. And
this is like a similar thing to Superman in the Elite.
Kind of, yeah. But I don't know. It might have been around the same time. I had to look up the dates on it. But he has a daughter named Rachel, which unrelated to Rachel Dawes. But when it was first said in Batman Begins that there was going to be a love interest named Rachel, everyone thought, wait, are they doing Year 2?
Right.
Because of the Rachel thing. But this Rachel doesn't really have much in common. Her name is Rachel Caspian, and Bruce falls in love with her, even proposes marriage to her, and things like that. She does not end up in the Reaper costume. It is her dad. And when her dad has a confrontation with Batman and ends up sort of, it's a case where it's like an almost accidental death. Batman's not responsible for his death, but the Reaper is ready to die in that moment and be like, okay, you are the protector of Gotham. You are a worthy successor. And then he falls to his death and he dies.
Okay.
And Rachel finds out about this and finds out what a monster her father was and decides to call off the engagement with Bruce and atone for her father's sins and do what she originally was planning to do, which was take her vows and become a nun with the convent. So that's how Year 2 ends. And it's said to be the inspiration for the Phantasm and the Andrea Beaumont story, but I have yet to hear like confirmation from the actual writers saying, yes, we read the story. Yes, this was a big influence. It seemed so it either was an influence or was coincidental, but the Phantasm herself was definitely a creation for this movie. And it's weirdly never made its way into the comics that much at all.
Yeah, right. They never reused this.
It's almost like the characters, it's like hands off, like
holy ground
precious
kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like too precious to do outside of the animated universe type of thing,
right?
Because it's such a popular movie among Batman fans, but not necessarily among the general public, because not a lot of people have seen it outside of it. So
how would you feel about if being a huge fan if they use Phantasm again?
It would have to be it would have to stay true to what was part of it. Like I'd be down for it. I'd just have to see like what is their take. Is this going to be a remake? Is this a continuation of it? This kind of segues into what I got because this is not the only story that features the Phantasm.
Oh shit!
in the animated continuity.
I didn't know that.
If you've seen Justice League Unlimited, there's the episode, I think it's called Epilogue, where it's set in the Batman Beyond continuity, which reveals the truth about Terry McGinnis. Have you seen that episode?
No.
Okay. Basically, Terry McGinnis is, I'm not going to give away too much, but Amanda Waller had her eye on Terry McGinnis back when he was a kid and wanted to sort of transform a new Batman. Okay. So she hired the Phantasm to try to kill the McGinnis family.
So Phantasm is around even in Batman Beyond continuity?
In Batman Beyond, well, yeah, because it's supposed to be continuation. And so it was older Andrea Beaumont who was supposed to do it. And she turned on Waller and refused to do it because she didn't want it. She knew the pain that would cause.
Okay.
Because she had seen that in Bruce Wayne. She didn't want to do that to anyone else. So she stepped out and refused that. So that's the only other animated continuity that was like, at least in the TV shows and stuff. However, there are comics that tie into the animated universe as well.
Okay.
That you can take or leave or in the continuity or whatever. One of them is a comic I've been trying to hunt down recently called Shadow of the Phantasm.
Okay.
And it supposedly reveals how Andrea survived at the end of the first movie. Because it's just like, well, hold on. She's hell-bent on killing Joker, but you can't really kill the Joker. But she's not dead either. So, like, how did this turn out? And supposedly it reveals that they fought, but, like, you know, all those explosions were happening and they ended up separating and everything. And I guess Andrea just decided to take her leave and take some time away. So I'd have to read that comic to find out what else is going on, but she had another appearance later on in a very interesting sort of 3-issue arc where a lot of the sort of rogues gallery were forming into the False Face Society.
Okay.
Black Mask was forming the False Face Society, and Phantasm was sort of signing up to become a part of it for some reason. And Bruce reunites with Andrea, but sort of resents her for being a murderer and everything, and sort of doesn't want anything to do with her. But he does go undercover as Matches Malone into the organization. Okay. And so he, and with some of Phantasm's help, kind of takes down Black Mask. But we find out that Black Mask was working for somebody else, and that somebody else is who Phantasm was really after. And the reveal at the end is that somebody else calls himself the Red Hood.
Okay.
Now, this is unrelated to the Joker, because Joker already exists, and is unrelated to Jason Todd, because Jason Todd's not in this continuity. So the mystery was going to be who was the Red Hood, and then they canceled the comic, and so that was never revealed in the comic. It's
probably going to be Beaumont.
It was not going to be revealed to be Carl Beaumont. It was going to be revealed to be Victoria Beaumont.
Okay.
Her mom.
Oh, wow.
The writer Dan Slott said Victoria had been involved with the Valestra mob. That's how Carl got involved in the first place. And so she disappeared to like fake her own death in order to protect them. But of course, they caught up with Carl and Andrea anyway. Quote, however, when she saw what happened to her husband and what eventually became of her daughter, she felt it was time to not only get revenge on the Valestra mob, but take Gotham for herself. Inevitably, this would have led to a devastating confrontation between her, Batman, and Andrea Beaumont. Okay. So that would have been an interesting confrontation.
Who was writing this?
Comic writer named Dan Slott. He's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So, why was that canceled?
I guess sales or whatever, but
sales
like it wasn't
that
popular. Yeah, like it wasn't that popular of a thing. I think people got their fill of the animated series and just figured the comics were redundant of that. And I don't think they really knew what the storylines were going. Because I'm just like, dude, the Phantasm's back. He's fighting like an animated series version of Black Mask. Like there's so many different cool shit going on in there. There's like a side story that they got where Bruce Wayne talks how much it's hard for him to be Matches Malone. And you think like, oh, because he has to be undercover? No. Because he has to pretend to be criminal? No. Because of the mustache. Because whenever he puts on the mustache and he looks in the mirror, he thinks he sees his father.
Okay.
So I was like, damn, I never thought about that, but like it's true. So it's very well done. It's all the comics that I just described are on DC Universe. So I definitely would check those out. Shadow of the Phantasm, unfortunately, is not on DC Universe, so I'll have to find a different way to track that down, and maybe at some point we'll talk about that later on the podcast. But I wasn't able to find a copy of that. But that's sort of the continuation of the Phantasm story, in still kind of locked into the animated series type of continuity, of course.
Okay.
Let's see other things. Let's see other trivia type stuff to bring up. I pointed this out to Andrew in the end credits, but playing the synthesizer for this movie was Hans Zimmer in his first Batman project.
Holy shit! Right.
So whenever you hear the synthesizer in this movie, which might be the times where you hear the piano when Joker shows up and everything, that might be literally the fingers of Hans Zimmer hitting the keys in the background for Shirley Walker. So I'm like, holy shit, okay. This is way before Nolan and Snyder and everything like that. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Arthur Reeves is an actual comic book character from the 1970s. He was a councilman who was sort of anti-Batman. There was no tie into the mob or anything like that, or specifically the mob before Bruce became Batman or the Joker or anything. But he is kind of a real. He's the only comic book character outside of the staple comic book characters in this movie. Andrea is made up. All the mobster guys are all made for this movie.
Valestra is made up.
Valestra's made up. Yeah. Let's see. Other trivia. Andrea's never actually called the Phantasm in the whole movie.
Oh yeah.
We just call her that because that's the name of the movie. But technically, she's never called that. She's just we just see her and she's always.
They think that she's
Batman the whole time, but she's never actually called by name. Never really explained how she manages to do the tricks, but you can always assume that like the gas just covers everything and she's just really quick. The only plot hole I find in this movie is just like in Batman Returns, Batman's name is never cleared.
Oh, right.
Right. So I'm like, damn it.
Right.
If they could only explain that part. I don't know if like Gordon puts in a good word or something like that, or there's some security cameras that are somehow working in the fair that reveal it, but I don't know. On a more sort of human or personal level, there's some of the fact that the emotional beats of this come from some real pain that was going on. If you've read Dark Knight, A True Story by Paul Dini, he talks about when he was mugged. He talks about when he was a victim of a violent crime. And apparently, that's partially why in this movie, Bruce gets beaten by those thugs.
So all that happened before this movie was made?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dini almost dropped out of the whole project and out of Batman entirely because of that incident.
Holy shit.
It made him question his life and everything. And also just like, you're my favorite hero, but like you don't exist and you weren't around to save me type of thing. So he was dealing with a lot of demons in it. And I think it transfers over to here.
As far as in what scenes you think?
Well, I mean, in terms of first off, the beating at the hands of the thugs and that. So that's definitely right out of his own thing. I don't know if he personally wrote it, but I think there is a scene in the comic that he wrote in terms of his memoir of it, where he's talking to the rest of the writing crew on this, because he wasn't the only writer on it. You could see that maybe some of the stuff that is a little bit more cynical in terms of the fact that every flashback gets progressively worse and worse,
right?
Emotionally for these people, or the fact of Bruce constantly sort of questioning himself in the flashbacks about like, what's the point of this? Why am I still doing this? That type of thing. The whole the big turnaround where he asks Andrea, he's like, how much, what would vengeance solve? And she's like, if anyone knows the answer to that, it's you. That type of stuff.
Right.
Any sort of the existential type elements of Batman, I think, are going to be related to him. I wouldn't be surprised if he was the one who wrote the whole "I wanted to be happy" scene either.
Right.
So it's not quite clear to me who wrote specific scenes. Supposedly, Michael Reeves wrote the finale, and Martin Pasco wrote a lot of the flashback scenes, and then Alan Burnett and Dini were the other ones. But I've never really read a clear breakdown of like who belonged to who. I think they all collaborated too, so it's probably tough for them to even remember, because remember, this is a long time ago.
Right.
I did, however, read an original draft of this called Masks.
Okay.
That was going to be the original title of this, was just called Masks. So a few tidbits of it. It's mostly the same stuff. The pre-Joker gangster is referred to as the Tall Man.
Okay.
For most of this. This was good. This is something I was glad they cut. They originally were just going to have Bruce scream no when Andrea sends in the letter about not calling off the engagement. I was like, thank God they didn't do that. There was going to be a much more elaborate sequence of Bruce figuring out that the tall man was the Joker. Because in the movie, he just does the whole colored pencil thing over him and sees the smile. In the script, he actually puts the photo through the bat computer, and the computer identifies him as Jack Napier. So they actually were going to use, just like they do in the cartoon, they were going to use the name from the Burton movie.
Okay.
And you were going to see a flashback of Napier fighting Batman in Ace Chemicals and then following up the chemicals, and then just brief flashes of everything that he's become. So you would see stuff like the Joker cards and Harley Quinn and stuff like that in brief glimpses before settling on the fact that that mobster is now the Joker.
Hey everybody, it's Andrew. I just wanted to tell you about our friend Israel's retro gaming shop, RetroCo. If you go to retro-ko.com, you'll be able to see all of his retro gaming goodies. If you wanted to get that Sega Saturn hidden gem from back in the day, or if you wanted to get the Famicom disk system that you never got as a kid, or any other type of retro game that you were into, or import game, please go to retroco.com. That's retro-ko.com. And if you use the SuperHouse code Johnson's Ballsack, you'll be able to get a little bit of a discount at checkout. So please, once again, if you could just go to retroco.com. You can also go to facebook.com/retroco with no hyphen. That's RETROKO. You'll be able to find him on Facebook as well. If you were looking for that PlayStation import game that you never got, if you were looking for that Mega Drive game that you never got, or any other kind of retro game, any import game, it could even be European, Israel also curates bundles at RetroCo, and he'll curate that bundle just for you. So please go check him out. If you put in the code Johnson's Ballsack at checkout, you'll receive a SuperHouse discount.
Let's see. There were a few cut lines too. There was a line that indicated that Arthur Reeves would have been dead if his secretary hadn't found him. So Joker was actually planning to flat out kill him.
Okay.
It was just a fluke that they were able to find him in time. In case anybody was wondering how Reeves was still alive, yet Philestra was not. There was a cut scene where after Joker tries to kill Batman with the sort of drone thing, and he says the whole, like, operator, my line's been disconnected, we would have seen a scene with him in his headquarters saying, quote unquote, I just kill me sometimes when I'm not killing other people.
Okay.
And then pressing a button to make that sort of Hazel, the housewife robot, laugh.
Okay.
Because he needs an
audience. Her name is Hazel?
His name is Hazel, yeah. Supposedly Jack Napier was going to talk in the flashback when Andrea finds the body of her dead father. He was going to say, because she came back with groceries, he was going to say something along the lines of, hope you didn't buy him dinner too.
Okay.
But I can see why. I think it's better left where he just doesn't say anything. And the only lines that he has is as the Joker. Just along the lines of the Burton movie, Joker destroys the TV at one point before the Phantasm comes in. Phantasm, when she confronts Joker, actually does call him Jack Napier.
Okay.
Before she to kill him. But for whatever reason, they decided to cut all references to Jack Napier in this. He's just a nameless gangster throughout the whole movie.
Right.
Batman.
Also, the tall man wasn't Jack Napier?
The tall man was Jack Napier.
Yeah,
they just didn't refer to him as Jack Napier because I think in the script they were trying to replicate the feeling of the surprise of that twist until Bruce figured it out. In the original script too, Batman saved Andrea from that huge turbine thing, that huge fan, a different way. Because in the movie, he uses the bat cycle. He just throws it in and it saves her. In the movie, he uses the grappling gun to I sort of rope her away and then uses some sort of special rocket thruster batarang to blow it up. Let's see. There's another cut line where Joker, when he's talking about how he's going to blow the whole place sky high, he says it's going to be the biggest blast since the Arkham Christmas party.
Okay.
May or may not be a reference to the Christmas with the Joker rocket scene where he jumps on top of the tree and just randomly rockets him out of the asylum. But maybe it was. There's the scene where Joker says, like, you're a lunatic. If you don't let go, we'll both die. And he's like, whatever it takes. In the original script, when Joker says we'll both die, Batman's original line was, then I'll see you in hell. I don't know if the studio thought that was too much to say in an animated movie.
That would mean, Batman's okay with killing the Joker, even though it's a murder-suicide.
Maybe that's why. I don't know.
But I mean, we're dealing with a Batman that's in a very weird emotional place in this
Yeah,
film.
so he's probably taking it out on Joker in that sense. But I think when push comes to shove, he's doing it to take Joker down. He's not doing it to kill him because he knows that Andrea wants to kill him. And so, like, what are you going to do? Kill Joker on Andrea's behalf? Like, it's not clear, but I can kind of see how it could track. There is a moment that's in the script. It's very dark. That's not in the movie, where Andrea takes Joker away, and Batman's wounded, and he tries to go after them. And it says, "quote If he can't save her, at least he can die with her."
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah. Which it means that he's intending to die.
Right.
If it means getting to be with her, type of thing.
Right.
Originally, the final lines of the movie were, because in the movie, the partygoer, that random partygoer dude on the boat, is like, "Sorry, do you want to be alone?" And she says, "I am." In the script, he says, "I'm sorry, have you lost someone?" And she says, "Yes." I kind of prefer the movie version. There is a
you prefer it over the movie version?
No, I prefer the movie version.
Oh, gotcha,
I do prefer the movie version. I like the idea. The general idea is just like he's asking something that can be reinterpreted for her context.
Right.
I love the prose of the end, because at the end it's just Batman looking over the city, and then the signal comes up and everything. But it says the city is all he has left. It's all he's ever had, and this is, in my opinion, an even better way of describing him than, at the end of The Dark Knight, where they're just like, he's a, a watchful protector at Dark Knight and things like that. It says, quote, "the eternal guardian without love or pity."
Yeah, it's good.
And I'm like, damn.
It's
that's
all
my favorite. Yeah.
All he has left. That definitely, they did a good visual interpretation of that near the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
it's
this
still
lone warrior, like Batman's so alone in his crusade, and you always feel for Alfred too, man. It's like,
yeah, it is one of the best Alfred scenes too, where Bruce is like, "I couldn't save her, Alfred," and Alfred's like, "I don't think she wanted to be saved." And he sort of tries to talk him out of blaming himself out of what was going on, and that's the thing. That's the connection between this and Batman Returns. Then in both cases, Batman does lose somebody who turns out to be alive, but in either case, he loses someone to vengeance, to taking a path that he is, well, at least in Phantasm case, has refused to take himself, and everything. And he can blame himself all he wants, and he hurts all along, but in the end, it was her choice and her decision and her reasons to go down that path. And that's what's always going to keep them separated, even more so than before, is the fact that she made that choice, and he will always be the guy who refuses to make that choice. That's why this is an anti-love story, really, between the two of them.
So
they can never be together. Yeah.
This with Batman Returns, Batman not getting the girl. This is like a double whammy for you, huh?
Yes, because it solidifies that idea. Yeah, it solidifies the idea that he's the lone wolf, that he will always be alone. But I think that's not always the case in all the other movies. But for whatever reason, 1992 and 1993, that seemed to be the idea for everybody writing a Batman movie. Right. So it is something to. This is the ultimate movie to watch if you're a Batman fan who's broken up with someone. Right to break up, this is the best movie to watch.
I feel like I'm older than you, but I feel like I was too young to be caring about girls when I was in second and third grade.
Remember, I didn't watch. When I first watched this, it was as a kid who didn't know anything. Like I didn't remember anything. It didn't make an impact. It was later on that I rewatched it when I was older. Just like with Batman Returns, I rewatched it when I was older. I rewatched these movies as a teenager or so.
Then it really hits home.
Then it hits home more. So some things, though, like some things you watch early on and you don't get it, and later on you rewatch it and you're just like, okay, this is. There's a reason why this is popular. There's a reason why this works. This hits and everything. So that's why it's my top one. I don't know if it's really worth doing a ranking with the previous Burton ones, because I know we were saying we were going to do that, but this is an animated one, and we know this is going to sweep everything in every category.
Right.
This in terms of movie, in terms of version of Batman, even version of Joker. Like, to me, like the Mark Hamill Joker is still the quintessential Joker, at least with not just animation, but also like even live action. Like I said, my favorite live action Joker is still Cameron Monaghan in Gotham, but like if still up against the Mark Hamill Joker, there's perfection. in the Mark Hamill Joker.
It's tough to compete against it because you got, the comics that are written on paper and drawn, and then you take that and you just make those pictures move. It's still, you're going from a still drawing to an animated drawing. It's such a close medium.
Yeah.
Right. But it's when you transfer it into live action, it's a lot. It's not, it's just not as close. So it's it loses a lot in that, and when it makes that transition. So
So I don't think it's quite fair if we rank it with it, but it is one of my favorites, and I do think that the only two animated movies in my book that sort of match it in terms of Batman cartoon movies are Under the Red Hood and Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and 2. Those would be my top 3 if I were to rank the animated movies.
I would do Red Hood over Dark Knight Returns.
I mean, I would too.
For me.
Yeah. No, I would too. I'd probably be Phantasm, Under the Red Hood, and then Dark Knight Returns in that order.
Yeah. I think I would agree with that.
Yeah. They're 3 very different takes on it, all very dark, but all convey different sides of the character in very compelling ways, I think.
I have a question about Phantasm real quick.
Sure.
So Joker figures out that she's who she is before Bruce Wayne does? Just because he's got the blinders on because he's in love with her?
Yes, he does. Because he killed Carl Beaumont. Remember, he was the hitman who killed Carl.
Right,
so he knows that it's not the dad.
Okay.
Because he killed the guy himself. So the only person left to take revenge is the girl.
I gotcha.
You know?
Sorry, I'm still unpacking this. I got you.
It's okay. Because when you first asked that question, part of me was just like, fuck, maybe he's right. I'm like, wait, no.
I was like, man, it's just that seeing Joker figure some shit out before Batman, it's just like, it's going to always stick out in your mind.
Right, but it's excusable because Joker had information that Batman couldn't have known.
Because Batman's not going to kill some motherfucker.
Batman doesn't know that Joker killed Carl Beaumont.
Right.
He's operating on the idea that Carl Beaumont's still been alive until he goes to Andrea's place and Joker makes that call, being like, hey, you can't jump out the window this time, Toots. And then Batman's like, okay, well, wait a minute. Joker knows that. Joker thinks that Andrea's the Phantasm, and then that probably gets him spiraling into thinking of what really happened.
Right.
And then by the time he confronts her at the fair, he's already figured it out.
Right.
I think a bigger question is, how did he know she was at the fair?
Right.
The only thing I can think of is he makes that indication about the car from the future or the plane from the future is coming towards her, and maybe that was like a subtle clue that he was giving over the phone and everything like that. But other than that, it's not really a lot to go off of, unless Batman's always known that Joker's hanging out there.
I have to see it again, I feel like. This is like...
You own the movie.
There's so many layers. Yes, I know. I don't know why I waited so long. I always
I'm glad
lately
you did.
I feel buried in content,
Yeah, I know. Content. No, I mean, I'm glad you did for the sake of this, because it's refreshing. Because otherwise it would just be you and me just shooting the shit about memories of this movie, about the same stuff. Like, it's good that this is less fresh in your mind, or not even fresh at all in your mind, before we go rewatch it. Because you have different reactions than I do on stuff.
Right.
So for me, watching this, I know what's coming in certain spots, or I know what certain things mean, or certain connections and everything like that, and can point them out and everything like that. And it's always cool to see someone who is experiencing that for the first time, or the first time in a long time.
Have you shown this movie to anybody else that hadn't seen it before?
Yeah, I've introduced this to a lot of people. There's just not a lot of people who were already familiar with a lot of Batman mythos stuff.
Right.
So like they like the Batman movies, but they didn't necessarily know, or have to talk to me that much about other aspects of the character or the comics or things like that. They've just like, oh, it's another cool Batman movie. Okay, cool. And they watch it with me, and they're like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Was it? Oh, they say it's pretty good. Is that the general reaction?
Yeah, I mean, they all really like it.
Okay.
I don't know if they necessarily think it's the best one.
Okay.
But I don't know if they are as big of enthusiasts in as we are in this type of stuff, or appreciating the Batman detective scenes.
Right.
Because of them, it's just like, okay, he's figuring out the crime. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like,
this is a detective, man. Detective Comics.
This is a movie where you can do the detective stuff.
Detective Comics 27, motherfucker.
Or, there's the significance to him, like, looking at the graves of the Waynes, or the portrait, or whatever, or saying, like, I didn't count on being happy. Like, all those things, they hit you more when you already know a lot of the mythology.
Yeah.
Or you know how his life is like. And they don't really do that if this is, like, one of the first 2 or 3 Batman movies you ever watched, and you
Right.
aren't super familiar with it.
Right.
So I can see how it doesn't quite stick with the sort of non-comic following in comparison. But yeah, you should show it to somebody and see what they think as well.
Yeah, I need to show it to Yuka, I think, next.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's not quite. She likes the movies, but she never read a Batman comic.
Right. Yeah.
But it's interesting to show it to people that aren't American either. At the same time, didn't grow up here. Like I've said before on the podcast, I showed it to Japanese people before the Nolan trilogy,
Right.
and they're always like surprised by how serious it is.
Well, and the fact that he's not abstinent.
Yeah. They said, "Oh, I thought he was going to be stoic," meaning not fuck.
Wait till they watch this one.
Yeah,
and fucks an animation.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, man, Batman fucks.
There's a good shout out to the cast, the voice cast on this, because this is Dana Delaney before she was Lois Lane,
right,
in the Superman Adventures. Kind of weird to have.
She's Beaumont.
She's Andrea Beaumont. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we got Hart Bochner as Arthur Reeves, and if anybody remembers, he played Ellis in Die Hard. Okay. He's the dude who sells everyone out and everything, and he's got the same exact personality in this one.
Speaking of shit I hadn't seen ever, I just saw Die Hard for the first time like three years ago.
Okay. I thought you were going to tell me you've never seen Die Hard and you have no idea.
No, but I didn't grow up with that shit.
I didn't really either. Yeah. I saw it later as an adult.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I just didn't. I saw Ace Ventura 1,000 fucking times. Never saw that movie.
We should look up whether or not Abe Vigoda is the guy in Ace Ventura, because he's in this as Palestra.
Yeah. That was a surprise. I knew I was kind of placing his voice, but I didn't know until the credits, really. But yeah, having Abe Vigoda in there was really cool. I felt like
we were speculating on how it would be like in the recording booth when he showed up, and they're just like, "Hey, are you ready to record for Batman Mask of the Phantasm?" And he's like, "Batman Mask of the what now?"
Your character smokes a lot. Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm talking to the Joker. Cesar Romero.
Am I like some sort of a smoking Joker kind of a guy?
Where's Adam West?
Yeah, where's Adam West? Who's this Kevin?
Yeah.
Fuck this Kevin.
He never does have a scene with Batman.
Not my Batman. That's true.
That's true. But yeah, no, I mean, it is. I'm glad I got to rewatch it. It's one of the more emotional Batman movies. It's one where you can easily show it to somebody and have them not be kind of, because I feel like if I show the Burton movies, they're going to be weirded out by Batman Returns. They might be kind of underwhelmed by 89 in comparison to the Nolan stuff.
Yeah.
But if I show them this, they're going to be like, okay, this is the good shit. This is the cartoon and everything. Like, this nice story and everything. I didn't know this whole Phantasm thing.
You get to fucking know who Bruce Wayne is.
Yeah, exactly.
Who is this guy? Like, remember when I talked about Batman 89? I don't know who Bruce Wayne is. Like,
yeah, they definitely dive into that here.
You know who the fuck he is in this movie.
Yeah.
So that was great. I wanted to talk about real quick the World of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you've probably thought this before, but am I off in saying that that's kind of like a almost like metaphorical for his relationship in a sense? It's like this sort of like bright future, and then I guess through the sands of time or whatever, or it's like this bright future was destroyed, and I guess Batman's future wasn't destroyed, but the bright part of it was
the future only thing he was going to have with her.
Right? Do you think that there's something going on there?
I think you're absolutely right. No, I've definitely thought about that, because it's representative of the time when they were at the highest peak of that relationship.
Right? Yeah.
Like, that was when he was happy, was when he was walking around with her and everything. And he was telling Alfred, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this isn't the plan. Like, I'm falling in love. What the fuck's going on? And everything. And now it's just rotted, and the tea of Gotham's not there anymore. And like, it's everything. The Joker's fucking living there. And like, it's the final. It's where they're at their happiest, and it's where they're at their lowest at the end, when they know each other's identities, and he's trying to stop her, and she's like, you can't stop me.
Right.
And says goodbye to him and everything. And unfortunately, it's like their own principles get in the way of them ever settling this at this point. Batman refuses to kill, and she refuses not to kill, or not to go on that vengeful spree. And that's what's forever going to separate them from then on. Even if they reunite, in some other sequel, like movie sequel of this, or some other continuation of this. That's what always is going to separate them.
I mean, to me, that really struck a chord with me. It was just like we had plans.
Yeah.
You know, things were going to be bright. I was turning around in my life, but
well, yeah, she says she's not just getting revenge on them for her dad. She's saying, like, look what they did to us. Look what we could have had. It's
a personal vendetta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's not just getting revenge on the death of dad. It's the death of that relationship she had with him and everything.
Do you feel like Batman was assuming that if she didn't kill, that they have a chance with each other?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was considering being with her when he just thought that it was her dad going around killing all those guys and everything. But I think once with his ending, it kind of solidifies with it the whole I couldn't save her.
Yeah.
Is he talking about just saving her life, or is he talking about saving her soul, or is he talking about both?
Right.
You know, that's why he says, you know, you didn't want, I don't think she wanted to be saved. She didn't care anymore. She says, this is the last shred I have left.
It's just like, it's fucking insane. You have these two fucking live action movies that are nowhere near as fucking deep as this cartoon that comes out, you know?
I do think Andrea may be, I'll just say it. I mean, she might probably be my favorite of the sort of would-be girlfriends that Bruce has had, simply because of how many.
Because she means the most.
She means the most to him, but also, like, look at the parallel. Like, she's gone on the same path as him. She just took one different choice, and that's it.
Right.
She still lost her parents. She still went on some sort of. She's obviously had some sort of training in order to be able to survive it and everything like that. She comes from somewhat of a. She's not as rich as Bruce Wayne, but she's definitely like somewhat rich. Everything.
She's in the same circles,
right?
Yeah.
You know, she has the same determination. She has so much of the same stuff, and you just want them to just hang up the capes and everything and just be together. But that's that's not going to happen.
Honestly, I would love a year one. Maybe this is her year one, but like, what did she do to train? You know, or an origin story in comic book form, at least. Of Beaumont's story. I think that there's a lot of
dad,
have Gail Simone write it or something, like it would be incredible. I think there's a lot to do there,
I'm surprised that like maybe someday they're going to do it. I just hope they don't fuck it up, because they need somebody who like really loves this shit
with some chops
to do it in live action.
Yeah,
I would love to see it in live action, but it has to be done well. I don't want, if they bastardize that, that the fans are going to think that's worse than fucking anything that Snyder did. Like it's going to be hell to pay if they do that. But I'd love to see a take on it. it's just one of those things that, as I said, it's just I think people are afraid to touch it because it's like it's almost too precious.
Sacred ground
Batman
at this
fans.
point.
Yeah, it's too much. Yeah, they don't want to fuck with it.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you finally got to see this.
I should have been earlier.
Yeah, I'm glad it was for this.
Yeah.
So now we know. But any closing thoughts?
Oh man. I mean, nothing new that I haven't said already. It's really up there, if not the best. I have to really think about it for a bit before I really make it my number one. But just it's a Batman and Bruce Wayne story. What it takes to be a hero. What it takes to do what you want to do in your life.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of things get in the way. Things like that, and like you said, like that line where Bruce Wayne's like, "This wasn't in my plan." That whole thing about Batman can win if he can plan anything.
Yeah,
but Batman's all about planning shit.
He just never planned for emotion.
He didn't
plan for love.
He didn't plan for this.
Yeah,
this wasn't part of the deal. He didn't think he'd have much of a human connection after his parents. He didn't care about that. He didn't care to even fucking have a friend, let alone fall in fucking love.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So this whole it's great. It's a fucking great movie.
Yeah.
There is the more I like unpack it as I talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's incredible.
So much, yeah.
It really is. So
in terms of my closing, I mean, I think I'm on record. This is my favorite. It's the absolute. It is. There's a reason why the finale. It's called in the soundtrack, the final track in the score. When he's looking up at the bat signal and everything, it's called Batman's Destiny. He's destined to always have the city. He's destined to always have the work. He's destined to be alone. And that's what the movie's about. Drop the mic.
Batman is sad. Everybody knows that.
Sad Batman.
Batman's a sad motherfucker, man.
Batman fucks, but he doesn't love.
He fucks, but he's not gonna fall in love with anybody. Not after Beaumont. Not after Beaumont. That was a wrap on that one.
So, in contrast to that, we will then see a very different take of Batman in the next time that we do a retrospective, which is Batman Forever, where she's going to try to get with Nicole Kidman before she became Aquaman's mom.
Yeah, Chase Meridian.
Yes, Chase Meridian.
Chase Meridian, man. She had posters and everything.
She's the next Batman love interest, and she is downgrade from Andrea Beaumont. But oh well.
And you are fucking wrong if you think I'm not going to put that Seal song in there.
Yes, please do.
We're all jamming that shit. Oh man. The scene, just to go back real quick, the scene where fucking he puts on the cowl for the first time,
yes,
and the horror, it's kind of like horror on Alfred's face, right?
Yes,
pretty much. It's kind of like, do you feel like under the surface, or maybe not so much under the surface, Alfred, he's horrified at the look, but it's also like he sees the transformation is complete, and he's not going back. This is it. Mm-hmm. He's fucking Batman for life now.
There is an element of Alfred who feels like Batman represents his failure as a parent to Bruce. That if I
that's fucking wonderful writing, though.
If I was there enough for you, if I was able to fill in that hole in your heart that your parents left for you, you wouldn't have done this, and you would have gotten married with somebody, and you would have had an ordinary life, and you wouldn't be out there trying to kill yourself all the time. That's the horror that's on Alfred's face, I think, more so than the actual look of the costume and everything. I think it's the look of what has he become.
It's beautiful, man. Yeah. I mean, it's sad for Alfred, but as for writing, as for storytelling, as for, gravitas, it's in the storytelling, it's beautiful. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's it, I guess.
We're just gonna keep praising this movie. If we keep talking about
it's incredible. All right, everybody, check us out on patreon.com/SuperHousePodcast. That's patreon.com/SuperHousePodcast. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you, Shasta. I'm sorry I haven't brought you up in the past few episodes. We will try to remedy that. Yes, she is our top contributor to our Patreon.
Nice.
And I am Thunderwolf Drew on Instagram and Twitter. Ben is Ben Juan Ryder.
Yep, on Instagram.
On Instagram only. And
Fuck
that's
Twitter.
it. There might be a day sometime in the future in which Maddie and Stefan and Joey come back to this fucking podcast. When that is, I have no idea, but that's
Until then, we'll just keep watching Batman movies.
until then. But no, this is fucking great. They'll join us for this shit. They'll join us for this shit is what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Get ready to join us for Batman and Robin.
Yeah, that's when they'll come back.
That's exactly what
Quit
they
your
want.
jobs to talk about this shit, please. All right. Anyway, this is Andrew signing off.
It's Ben signing off.
Situation anyway, and doesn't it seem strange how everything can change and still feel the same? I never even told you. I thought you knew. I never even said chances are lost, like tears.